Hello, my little Liebfrau Milches, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. I hope everybody's enjoying their Friday because I know that I am. I've never had more fun in my life. I mean, like, really. I mean, I've watched every Andy Griffith show. I watched Opie grow up, for God's sakes. Exciting shit, exciting shit. I'm putting that up, and now I'm just getting all the links together. So I'll just amble on meaninglessly. Some of the other things that I've done, I've learned 16 different ways to tie my shoes. It doesn't seem like it would ever come in handy, but during a pandemic, it does because you have nothing else to do.
You learn to tie your shoes, but they're all loafers.
How
many knots can you make from velour straps?
I thought that was a play on words. Is that a play on words? Or no, you were being quite literal. All right. So, and also I'm going to put up the Zoom link for those people who want to be part of the program, but just haven't found their way here for whatever reason. That's coming up right now, and it's a Babuya. All right. And that's up there. So, hi, everybody. The Cleveland Browns released their schedule today, and I just want to do something for 5 minutes before we get into it, because the whole show we're going to be talking about NFL schedules. It's not just the Browns, but the Ravens and the Steelers and all the teams that we hate. And that would include the Browns in some instances. So we'll cover all that. I wanted to do something a little different because things are getting really inflammatory on social media. And I think Brian would be the first to admit that we all stir the pot just a little bit. And I think everybody knows what side of the line both of us are on. And it's rare that I actually write things down. But I wanted to point a few things out that are a little bit mystifying to me. And I want everyone to take a very good close look at themselves. And then it's like a check and then move on and try to be more civil toward one another, because it's really getting kind of really hot. And I don't think that's in the best interest of the country at all. Not either side inflaming this issue or these issues anymore.
I do believe we both agree on the Georgia incident.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are things that you and I agree on. It's not like we're in total disagreement. We have a very different view of the pandemic and what the best remedy is. And I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that. I wanted to share a screen and I think people will get where this is going. And I think that, let me throw this up here because I think that this is important. All right, here we go. It's share the screen time. All right, this is a simple thing. If you're driving between, I'm going to say you're driving between, I'll make it relevant to Northeast Ohio. You're going to Cleveland Hopkins Airport and you're on Interstate 71 and you're coming north from Mansfield and you're coming up, up toward Cleveland. And you're zipping up the highway because you got to get to the damn flight, assuming there wasn't a pandemic. And you have a 70 mile an hour right here. You can see that this is basically what they call rural interstate highways. When you get into more congested areas, it will drop down accordingly. But let's say you're driving.
Most of ours are 65 here in Phoenix.
Right. But you're... Yeah,
and you're kind of a reference,
right? But this is the important thing that I'm really going to get at. You're driving down the road, trying to make a flight. You decide the only way you're going to do it is to go 87 miles an hour, and next thing you know, in your rearview mirror, you're seeing woo. You're seeing the legs go off, and you're going to get pulled over. And who is it that's pulling you over?
In Arizona, it's usually for interstates and for the loops, it's going to be a DPS.
All right.
Department of Public Safety.
Right. All right.
They basically constitute the state police as well as highway patrol
Right. And I
for
think the
those
point,
out of the
and
state.
I've highlighted that the statutory speed limits are established by state legislatures. So it might be different in your neck of the woods, what they tolerate as far as what they would consider speeding. I don't know anybody who ever got a speeding ticket who was very happy with it. They were convinced that cars went past them going faster than them, yet they were the ones who got nailed because they had out-of-state license plates. It's happened to me. It's probably happened to everybody. If you're driving a certain type of car, you might be more likely to get pulled over for speeding. If you're driving a car like a Maserati, you're definitely going to get pulled over for speeding.
How about a fairly big YouTuber and his brother were pulled over by DPS here on I-17 not too long. I would say, well, it happened at the end of 2019. They were coming to visit family. One had California plates, the other one had Minnesota plates. So.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And they were accused of racing, and the guy was the DPS officer was, let's say, very super trooperish in his attitude towards both of them.
Well, the point of all of this is that state legislatures determine the speed limits. It is a state law. You can literally go over, from Council Bluffs, Iowa, directly into Omaha, Nebraska, and by the change of state line, have a different speed limit, and it will be posted. And these laws are enforceable and are applicable. And I'm reading this right off of, even if the speed limit sign's not posted. All right. Now, we all talk about speed traps, and we've all been hit with those too. But the fact of the matter is, once you get a ticket, you got to pay for it, or you can contest it and not win. But the bottom line is,
I did beat one. I did beat one in the state of Arizona. I showed up. The DPS officer did not. Case dismissed.
But what we're going to compare this to, as far as state law, of course, is going to be what's going on in Michigan or what's going on in other states where we have hairdressing salon owners who were told they were not to open their business, did against state law, and then were prosecuted by state law and then overridden by an individual in the state governmental branch. And what we had in that instance was
in Texas, it was the Supreme Court of Texas.
Right. So, I mean, what you have is a person standing out, ripping something up, saying, this is a citation I received, and ripping it up. Now, if you were stopped for speeding and you stood there and you ripped the ticket up in front of the police officer, you'd have a problem. Or worse yet, if you were defiant and you decided to continue driving 87 miles an hour and fuck them, it's a law that I think is not fair, then you're really in trouble. Then you've got a bunch of law enforcement people all over your ass. All right. State laws are to be followed, and we don't agree with all of them. And law and order is not necessarily historically been the strong suit on my side of the aisle, to be quite honest with you. I think it's been a staple of Republican politics for a long time. The notion of the state not being allowed to shut down businesses, that would be the lockdown, which of course the governor of Michigan is taking a lot of crap for, versus a moral position blocking abortion clinics and preventing them from doing something which law, whether you agree with it morally or not, law established abortion clinics to be legal, yet people would block people from going in. These are interesting comparisons. And what I'm looking for on both sides, and you're going to see that I'm going to do the same thing to myself, is there has to be a middle ground. We can't continue going off on these wild, crazy tangents. I know that there are a lot of people who did not like the conscientious war objectors in the Vietnam era, you know, who said this is an immoral war in our opinion, we don't want to go. And then they proceeded to burn their draft cards, okay? And that would be similar to tearing up the citation in the middle of a public square, burning the American flag. These conscientious war objectors were looked upon by, at the time, Republicans and many older Democrats as being people who were unsavory and people who were lawbreakers who deserved to go to jail. Taking it to a wider extreme, a national law, I mean, I don't know anybody who quite honestly feels that their tax money is being spent properly in Washington, D.C. I really don't. I don't think that anybody feels they're getting their money's worth, and a lot of things are going to things that they wouldn't want to support in the first place. But if you conscientiously object, like if you're saying, well, I'm not going to wear a mask, God damn it, I'm not going to pay my taxes, God damn it, well, you know where you're going to wind up, and it's not in a really good place.
Just ask Wesley Snipes.
Exactly. I mean, you know, the truth of the matter is that there has to be some consistency. State laws have to be followed. All right. They can be overturned. They can be questioned. You can approach your legislators and try to do your best. However, to be defiant in the face of something, you have to run the risk of imprisonment, like the war objectors did. The fact of the matter is, if they really believed in what they were doing, some of them left the country, all right? And there are those who believe that they should never have been allowed back into the country because of that. There were athletes who served in the war, and then there were famous athletes who did not serve in the war. And what we learn through history more than anything else is that we really don't know the extent of right and wrong. Why aren't you letting people in?
Because you had that full screen and I couldn't see them until now, but I will let them in now.
I've made her the co-host of the show, so she's learning how to let people in.
Oh, open the floodgates.
Yeah.
Unleash
Come on in, everybody. Come on in.
Unleash the
A
hounds.
brand new car. So, you know, to me, what it boils down to is history is going to be the greatest proof one way or the other. And of course, we can't see into the future. Is for this reason that I'm going to say that I can't sit here and tell you that the reopening of the economy, the way it's being done, is the right way or the wrong way. I can tell you that if it's been left up to the states, that state law is state law. And I think that most of us would agree that obeying the law is better than anarchy. And I suspect that we are heading more toward anarchy. And this is not something which is good for our country, especially in the throes of a pandemic. My personal feelings are history is going to tell us that, you know, we're opening this thing up and we'll see what happens. I mean, I will be the first one to say, and I think people know me well enough on the program, that if this turns out to be the right move and this thing doesn't blow up in our face, this virus, this pandemic, and people get back to work, you know, I'm going to be all for it. I want what's best for the country. It's not that I don't want what's best for the country. It's just trying to determine what's best for the country and the people who live in it. Unfortunately, it could go the other way, all right? But I'm not one of these people who's going to say after the fact, fuck these people for what they did. You know, the bottom line is we may be forced to, if it goes the wrong way, to shut down again. And that's going to further hurt the economy. So I'm not going to sit here and try to play prognosticator. All I'm going to say is be civil, for goodness sakes, and be even-minded about this. If you believe in law and order, I mean, you know, and before we went on the air, you know, Brian and I were online arguing and disagreeing rudely, as we always do, and but agreeing on the murder in Atlanta that is nothing short of murder, that happened almost 11 weeks ago that nothing's been done about. They haven't even so much as conjured a case. And it's so bad. The goddamn video of the guy getting shot is all over the internet. And there's been nothing done in terms of the ex-police officer and his son who committed the crime.
Well, they were arrested yesterday.
Yeah, were they finally
Yeah,
arrested?
they did get arrested last night.
Yeah.
Well, God bless, after almost 11 weeks. But
It only took a national outcry on social media, but hey.
Right.
yeah, and that's just it. I mean, you got to be
Well, and
even.
You've got all of these criminal cases that are pending because the courts are shut down as part of the state government. So you're going to have this massive backlog once they finally do reopen, and you're going to have people sitting in jail. Well, you've already had people sitting in jail for 7, 9, 11 weeks awaiting their basic hearings.
Right.
All right. So that's all I really wanted to say about this is, like, if you're a law and order person, let's keep law and order in a country right now that's under a lot of stress economically and a lot of stress politically. Let's just take a step back and let's respect state law, and it will all come around. I mean, if it's the 28th of May, you can wait 20 days. I'm saying an average day productively is 12 hours for people. 20 days is 240. That's like watching 240 Moohead radio shows. And damn it, if you can watch this show twice a week, you've got time to burn on your hands, okay? I mean, you could wait the 20 days and not, get into trouble out there and create a mass disturbance with loaded weaponry in public. We don't want anarchy in the country, and things will get opened up in Michigan. There's no way that the governor there is going to be able to extend this beyond May the 28th. There is no way. I mean, and if that's done and everyone else has successfully done this and she continues to do what she's doing, then she's just going to be hung out and dried. And politics. Go ahead.
I say transparency, if I could speak, transparency is the big thing here. And it's why I'm beating the table on social media, is because our governor here has provided literally no give and take toward the average working people, but yet they've got plan upon plan upon plan for protecting people who are in long-term care facilities and are going to die anyways of underlying conditions and all this. It's like, you got to update the people, and you got to put forth some sort of effort to calm the people, and give a little, take a little, give a little,
right
compromise.
now we all need a big chill pill, and there are some things that are scary. I mean, I don't know if you looked at the headlines. I mean, people in the White House now are getting the coronavirus. The press secretary of Vice President Pence tested positive, and now on the day that the NBA is saying that players who are asymptomatic will be given tests, I hope it's not the Abbott Laboratories rapid response test, because the rapid response test, which is what the White House is using, which gives you results literally in like 15 minutes, okay? People are saying, well, how is it that Trump and Pence and all those people can be tested so often? The answer is there are so many people coming in and out of the White House. Look, those are your leaders. You can't allow those people, to get ill. But it's a rapid response test. You take the test, 15 minutes later, you find out. There's a 15% false negative on this, folks. And that's what's happening in the White House. You see, the reason the press secretary of Pence slipped through the cracks is because of that 15% number. You're not safe. The bottom line is you're not safe from this with the tests that are currently available. And the antibody tests are not reliable at this point. The rapid tests, the only tests that they feel are really good are the ones that take a couple of days to get results on. And the problem with that, of course, is that that's a couple of days you have people asymptomatic walking around to spread the disease. So it is something to look out for and to be careful of. And we need a little good news. We need to enjoy ourselves a little bit, and we just got to take a big chill pill, man. Let's talk football and talk Cleveland Browns because the schedule is out. And, we're all going to guess at what the record is by the end of the show. The season starts at Baltimore. Wait a minute. Let's see.
Out of the frying pan into the fire.
Or did that come out with the right way, or do I have to go like that? I'm trying to think of it.
We'll see very little of this. Win.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And then we face the Bengals and Joe Burrow. And then 4 days later, we have our home opener. So we're on the road the first 2 weeks on Thursday night football on allegedly September 17th. And hopefully that will take place. So the Browns are going to have 3 games in a short period of time. The bad news is starting out against a team that is sound in its philosophy and coming off a good draft and with a young quarterback who's feeling his oats and playing in front of their home crowd. And you are once again, for the umpteenth time, starting a new system in Cleveland. First week going to be difficult, and the Bengals don't have the talent that the Browns have. All right. And Joe Burrow is going to be seeing all kinds of blitz schemes and speed of game that he has never seen before. You can count on the Bengals having a very conservative.
And a couple of teammates.
Say what?
And a couple of teammates.
How so?
Phillips, Greedy Williams, Delpit.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
He's going to be seeing some LSU Tigers on the defensive. side of the ball.
The Bengals didn't have the talent that the Browns had last year, and I believe the Browns lost.
That's exactly right. But I'm just talking in I'm talking in generalities. That's right. You don't know how. I guess what I'm saying is, the fact that the first 2 games are against our AFC North opponents, we will have played 4 of those by the midpoint of the season. So, if you don't get off to a decent start, you can fall behind in your own division, and that's going to kill your chances of making the playoffs if you have any dreams.
The Bengals series is wrapped up by I think week 7 or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, October 25th.
Wow.
Yeah, they're jamming these things in. I mean, so the Browns have 2 primetime games, the Bengals game, and the second one's a Monday night home game against the Ravens. And believe me, it's not because of the Browns. You're going to find out that the Ravens,
Burrow and Lamar Jackson.
the Ravens are. The country, the broadcasting, it's all. It was just like for Baker last year. Your people want to see a certain team. The Ravens are one of those teams. And believe it or not, the Patriots still are too, even without Brady. And of course, the team most is Tampa because they got Brady.
Of course.
And Gronk.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't really matter because it all plays out not on paper, but on the field. I mean, so 2 national, I want to fly under the radar anyway as a Browns fan. The last game of the year is going to be against the Steelers. This is something that we've seen 9 times in 13 years that we finished the season against the Steelers. And that will be known as the Racist Bowl from this point forward. I mean, end the season
Mason
off with
Rudolph
a bang.
still on the roster?
Yeah, Myles Garrett will be signing helmets at the end of the game.
Yeah, oh God.
And they'll all be Steeler helmets.
Week 6, we get the Steelers. That's first time since 2018 that we'll be on the field with Roethlisberger. He's 22-2 against the Browns. Not good. The Browns bye week comes right in the middle of the year, so that's good news in the sense that by the time they have to take Olivier Vernon and cart him off the field, he might be ready to come back in the second half of the season. So that's good. The Browns have the fourth easiest schedule, posting a 461 percentage. That's their opponents. The Ravens have the easiest. The Steelers the second easiest, and the Bengals have the sixth easiest. So right now the AFC North is getting help as far as their schedule strength, which may help any, I think the teams that will serve to be helped the most would be the more veteran teams, the Steelers and the Ravens, simply because, the Ravens have a 438 winning percentage opponent this year. They're going to have a big year. And that means if you're going to be fighting for a wild card, which is what a lot of people think is the case, the over-under is suggesting that the Steelers are going to win 10 games this year. Now, if you want to believe that, I don't bet against them because I swear to God, they come back to life more than God knows what.
We'll see how Pigpen's health holds up. Did they draft a quarterback? Do they have a backup quarterback?
No, I mean, Mason Rudolph is going to be their backup quarterback.
They stuck with the two they had last year.
Him
They
and
haven't made any
Duck.
changes.
Quack, quack.
You motherfuckers. The schedule also features OBJ's return to MetLife Stadium, and
Didn't he
And
return
he gets
last
to
year
do
when they
it
played the
twice.
Jets?
what?
Didn't they play the Jets in New York last year? Or was that in Cleveland?
No, they played there.
Oh,
Yeah.
so yeah, he
But to
he
face the
already-
Giants, we're talking the Giants, but we got the Giants and the Jets in back-to-back weeks here
Oh,
to end the season. It's New
Oh,
York.
and thank God we
start
don't play the
spreading the
goddamn
news.
Thank God we don't play the fucking Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
New York. That's what I'm going to refer to as that part of the schedule. And
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, and then so then we do have the Dallas Cowboys, which is to put it in perspective. We got a preseason. We're at the Bears. We're at the Packers. Then we're at home on Fox National Television. The preseason still against the Vikings. So Tony, we can watch that together. And then week 4
When it gets canceled, I guess we'll watch like the 2009 game or something.
Exactly. And then week 4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so we won't see hide nor hair of Tom Brady. All right. Nor will they see hide nor hair of Baker Mayfield. The regular season, I'll do it in order so that everyone gets this. At the Ravens, then we got Cincinnati on the NFL Network. Then we have the Redskins. Then we have the Colts. So we have 3 nice home games. 2, because at Dallas in week 4. Week 5, we're home against the Colts. Then we're at Pittsburgh, at Cincinnati. Then we're at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm going to have all kinds of trouble with remembering Las Vegas because the Raiders, just when I got used to Oakland, you know how it goes. It was LA, then it was Oakland, now it's Las Vegas. Then we have the bye. Then we come home with the Houston Texans. And it's a tough game. The Philadelphia Eagles. Who knows who will be the quarterback in Philadelphia at this point? And that's a home game for the Browns. Then we're at the Jaguars. We're at the Titans. And boy, we got a score to settle with them after what they did to us last year at home.
Piss out of you.
You got that right. And then December the 14th, which is the Monday night affair with the Ravens in Cleveland. And then we're at New York, the Giants, at New York, the Jets. And then for week 17, we're home at the Steelers, and the season is over at that point. So, it's what it is. I'm not sure it's good, bad.
It is what it was, what it will be.
Exactly.
That's the way it is.
I mean, it's unbelievable, 5 primetime games for fucking Tampa. The world has gone crazy.
But what did you expect? I mean,
That's what you expect. Of course, that's what, but it's still goofy.
Brady and Gronk suddenly makes them relevant.
Yeah, but something, I have a feeling this is not going to go well. I just feel it in my bones. It's there's no magic to this, and you know the magic.
Brady will get hurt in the same game as Gronkowski, and Arians is going to be carted off the field after his 14th fucking heart attack.
I never thought Bernie Kosar was ever better than he was with Lindy Infante's offense, you know, and then when Marty took over the offense, and then it just went downhill from there. By the time Belichick arrived, Bernie was gone, and Bernie never shined anywhere else that he was. I'm not comparing Bernie Kosar to Tom Brady, but what I am saying, a lot of the magic in these things is just the familiarity with the people you're playing with the system you're playing in, and Tom Brady's a quick study, but he's old and he's slow, and you know, all it takes is a moment of hesitation, and it could be bone rattling for him. 5 primetime games for the Patriots, and I don't know who in the hell wants to watch that.
With Brian Hoyer at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Oh,
know.
they're going with the
God.
what's his face.
Yeah, it'll be Stidham.
Oh,
Jarrett
okay.
Stidham.
Well, okay, then maybe, you know.
I don't even know what a skidum is. You know, then the Chiefs, you know.
Maybe they should change his name to Schism.
Skittles, taste the rainbow.
Or maybe they could change his name to Jism because he comes late to work.
Well, Mr. Mued, if he makes you guys feel any better, you get to see the Texans get embarrassed on Thursday Night Football to start the year.
Well, I mean, we're all going to have our turn now, aren't we? And by the way, thanks, Rox, for letting him in. You know, it's great having a co-host. This is great. It's just like, you know, the hand of God letting people into the studio with me not even having to do it. It's wonderful.
God, you've gotten lazy.
No, it's delegation. It's using the system for
It's
what
valet parking.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Catholic Church. It's like the Catholic Church hogging 9,000 of the PPP small business loans. Did you read that?
I
It's
didn't I missed
unbelievable.
that.
The fucking Catholic Church. And I'm sorry, pardon my French, but the fucking Catholic Church. They don't pay any fucking taxes. The goddamn Vatican has more wealth in it still. And they applied and were approved 6,000 parishes, which wish I would, if we just changed the A to an E, they'd be parish. Right. 6,000 parishes were approved in the first round. Now that can't be an honest thing. That can't be honest. You can't tell me that all these people, and if we do care about, you know, Joe the Barber in Owasso, Michigan, and believe me, I owned a radio station that was technically licensed to Owasso, Michigan, and the guy wants to be open. If we care about small businesses, how in the hell can the Catholic Church qualify? But at any rate, I'll let it go. But, you know, we're just not, you know. But I guess the rich get richer. The Chiefs are going to be on TV a lot. The Ravens, oh my gosh. You know, through December, they're
Faces of the sport. Tom Brady.
So do you guys see anybody in the AFC even being able to compete with the Chiefs? Because I see them coming out of the AFC again.
No, the Chiefs are going to be solid. They're the definite, you know, and I think the Chiefs and the Ravens are the teams that people are leaning on. The Ravens through December, to put it in perspective, they're home against Jacksonville and the Giants, and then at Cincinnati. I mean, you know, that could easily allow them to simply rest players at the end of the year because they could beat Jacksonville, the Giants, and Cincinnati with a blindfold on.
They might be undefeated by the day.
Yeah, but
They only made the Eastern time zone once the entire year, and that's for the Texans game, which is the second week of the season. After that, they're in the Eastern time zone the rest of the year. They have the least number of miles they have to travel of all the other teams.
They got a great schedule. I mean, and they got a really fine team too. I mean, so that's going to be hard to beat, you know?
Yeah, but I still don't see the Ravens repeating the same performance as last year. I don't think they'll go 13-3 or 14-2.
And can you believe the league's helping out the Raiders? 4 primetime games, all in lost wages.
Yeah, Vegas.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You
Here's
know,
the biggest question, Mr. Muhead.
Yep.
Will COVID allow us to start on time?
I mean, it's not for me to say. I figured Rick would like that. Who's saying that?
Next thing you
Johnny
know,
Mathis.
Than's you.
Roger Bell's gonna have us playing all of our games on an island.
Yeah, Fantasy Island. No, that would be great. Fantasy League Island. That would be what a concept that would be for a television program. What are you doing? Is that a cat?
Yep.
He's playing like a bongo drum there. For
I
a
know.
second.
I was wondering. My goodness, mauling the poor little guy.
Fucking hairs flying everywhere.
He's got a rake or something. Jeez.
So
Got some leaves on it or something? What the hell?
She gets real hyper. She jumps on my shoulder every morning. She tries to stop me from going to work.
yeah, at this point, we have to assume that the season they're hell bent on starting on the 17th, and I'd be the happiest guy in the world if it could start on the 17th and the COVID numbers started dropping and that we were able to progressively open this thing up. I'd be the happiest guy in the world. Nobody likes to sit around in quarantine. Nobody.
Yeah.
But boy, is it going to be depressing, man, if we
I'll
get
tell
to
you,
that point and then
the
we have to
NFL
shut it down.
The NFL presented by COVID-19 Experience the Rainbow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really. What I'm concerned about is the psyche of America. If you have to go backwards and shut things down again, I mean, whoa! I mean, you're going to have a lot of people with psychological issues at that point, and financial difficulties on top of that, which could cause domestic problems and all kinds of other things. You know?
Mr. Moohead, they're going to come out. NFL's going to drop a commercial. Ever felt suicidal or depression? Have you ever felt like jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge because you couldn't pay your bills? Well, why don't you invest your last $30.99 plus taxes to invest in the NFL package where you can get all the games exclusive?
Yeah, I mean, you take football away. I mean, I think that's the biggest of all. The NBA thing at this point, people kind of lost interest. That's kind of old news.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, Mr. Moohead. There were ESPN critics saying that they should just put Bucks and the Lakers in the finals and just let them play.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any closure for fans. It would be something to watch, but it wouldn't be. But you take football away from people. There's something about football that time of the year you're just expecting. Oh, I'm looking forward to this, and all of the people who are draft picks and fantasy players and all of it. You take that away, and that will have a major effect on people. So I hope it starts.
No one's missing the NBA lottery draft. Nobody's missing that.
I think if you get to football and they do empty fans, you're going to have a problem on your hands because, there's going to be mobs of people outside the stadium pounding on gates to let me the fuck in.
All the bookies in Las Vegas are going to have a case of the shakes. They don't have any games to bet on.
Now, this is interesting. Baker Mayfield is saying every interaction I've had with Kevin Stefanski has been great. He's climbed the ladder very quickly because he's very well respected and he's an extremely sharp guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows the exact approach that he wants to attack with, and he does just that. I think if nothing else, going from the freewheeling Bob Dylan,
great album, by the way.
Great album, lousy coach.
I don't know.
Hi, it's me, Freddie. Well, you can see me.
Baby.
I'm behind my tight ends. I like it that way. The name of the game is I like it like that. The thing is, I think the detail orientation, which might end up pissing Browns fans off to some degree because it's going to be so ritualistic, so regimented, so tight endy, so running game-ish, that it's I think Browns fans would do anything to win. Okay. But Browns fans were winning with Marty Schottenheimer, but boy, when the switch flipped, people were so sick and tired of Marty's, relying on the damn defense, letting the offense go off the field, thinking the defense was going to win the game for him, and the conservative kinds of stuff that he would do. All tie wearing Marty, got to wear a tie on the road. And eventually that systematic approach, which was really the most recent successful time for the organization, turned against him. So I think at first it's going to be really good because the players need discipline and they need regimentation because it was so sadly lacking in the last regime. But, I do believe that at least getting the attention of the players is the right way to start with this. So, let's go week by week, shall we?
Yes.
While we have the opportunity. We talked about the schedule.
Should we just start with week 2 since we all know week 1 is the big fat L?
Yeah, Cleveland's they've only won one opening game since '99 once and tied another. So
and you play probably one of the best teams in football.
I mean, you're seeing this as more the more than 2 touchdown deficit.
No, I think it's
17.
I think it'll be closer than 10 points.
Right.
I think 7 or 8 points is or 6 to 8 points is reasonable.
Yeah, it was like one of the things I've been doing was watching the Cavaliers 2016 championship season, and watching the different playoff games. And
we have some Cavaliers news. They actually have opened up their practice facility to a limited extent.
Yeah, I saw
that Larry Nance went.
Yeah.
Nance Jr. was there, and so was K-Love, and I forget who the third guy was there. Maybe it was it James Jones or James Earl Jones? They're both about the same age.
I am your dribbler.
So
Darth Vader made an appearance. Holy shit!
Yeah. Where else are you going to find the dark side of the Cleveland Cavaliers gymnasium?
He was trying his best Zahodoom, but he still couldn't turn into the snake.
Here's I guess what I remember what I was saying in Game 7. The Cavaliers fell behind by 8 points in Game 7 on the road, and they managed to claw back. And I remember saying, the longer this thing stays close, somebody's butt is going to start puckering. Because I sensed in the previous 2 games that Steph Curry was in absentia. Just he looked worn down. Like the length of the season just kind of took its toll on his legs, and he wasn't shooting well. And they had gotten such a big game out of, oh God, now I'm, why am I?
Thompson?
Yeah, Thompson. My
Thompson?
guy. Yeah, Klay Thompson had like 41 points or some such awesome number in Game 5, and they'd still lost that at home. And he wasn't going to replicate that. And they were counting on Draymond, who was I think 6 for 8 or 6 for 7 from 3-point land. He did his part. But the longer it stayed close, the better it got. For the Browns, week 1, the longer you stay close, the better off you are, because when a team is expected to win and it comes down to, white knuckle time in front of the home fans, sometimes something not so good happens. So, and that's what happened, for Cleveland. They came through in Golden State because really by the end, everyone was out of gas, but it seemed like the heart was choked out of them because they really thought that they were going to put on a spurt, and it never happened. And the closer the game got, the more frantic Curry looked, throwing behind the back passes, throwing up off balance balls and banged off the backboard. Draymond threw up an air ball that went out of bounds. There was a whole series of things when you watch that game, looking back at it now, that were telltale. So I want to stay close. You know, you lose by more than 2 touchdowns, then same old Browns. You start out the season on the bad foot. Then you got to go play Cincinnati in Cleveland. Let's talk about that, panel.
They should win that one.
Yeah, I see that one as being an easy win because you're gonna have what's his name from LSU starting.
Yeah, Burrow.
Joe
still
Burrow,
gonna try. He'll still be feeling his way around.
Yeah,
Is Mixon signed now? Is he settled? I thought he was having some doings on about whether he was going to play or not. And
right, he's not a crook, that we know.
Yes, he assaults women, but he's not a crook.
Yeah. Let's draw the line somewhere, doggone
I
it.
hope the Browns don't make the Bengals look like Andrew Luck, you know, when he first started his first year, you know?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, Joe Burrow is an unproven commodity. I mean, but they all are to a large degree. I mean, and Baker Mayfield is still looked upon as a question mark. He had one good year, one not good year. And you know, the thing about Joe Burrow is that he does not have a great NFL arm by NFL standards. And that's going to be, you know, the question that will be asked is the question that was asked of Mark Sanchez and everybody else who came into the league with what was perceived to be less than NFL grade arms is, will the windows still be available with the tightness of coverage at the NFL and the amount of speed at the NFL level? And, you know, it can turn ugly for a young player playing for a team that's not very good. And if his timing isn't just right and the ball floats at all, then the pick sixes begin. You know, you don't know. A guy like Burrow, great year for LSU, great story, but it doesn't necessarily translate. Baker Mayfield has a better arm than Joe Burrow does.
Yeah.
and I wouldn't say that Baker Mayfield has a Brett Favre arm. Okay.
I'd be a little bit more nervous if Andy Dalton was starting, only because he has experience against the Browns. If they would have started Andy Dalton and just let Burrows come under his wing and learn from him.
I mean, did you see about that whole thing with Favre? What the fuck? $1.2 million that he got that he had to give back.
What?
Yeah.
Some governmental corruption thing?
Yeah. Some kind of they're forming some kind of a fraud case against him.
Well, yeah. I mean, what happened was he was supposed to give
Mississippi.
Yeah, in the state of Mississippi, 2 talks that he was compensated for on $1.2 million by some kind of a scam that he claims that he knew nothing of the scam. He didn't know where that 1.2 million came from. But upon finding out, he gave $600,000, I want to say, back right away, or $500,000. And then he was going to make installments on the $600,000.
He must have blew through it all.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole story is kind of a curious story. So, but boy, bad look.
Brett Favre worth $25 million. He can give the damn money back.
You got that right. You know, it's like
Brett
Favre.
Well, being worth 25 million and having 25 million.
That's right.
Two
That's right.
Separate things.
I mean, Chuck Barkley's worth about 100 million, and he's probably got maybe like what?
If he sells some of his copper fit stuff on eBay, he should be able to recoup that.
Yeah, liquidity is a different story.
He's got the 1.2 million to get back.
Yeah, do a couple more commercials with Jerry Rice, he'll be fine.
Of course, you really don't know if he squandered all of his money or what. Week 3, we got the Redskins and Haskins and all of that good stuff. What do you think, panel?
That should be a W.
I like that. I think the Browns could easily, at worst, I mean, even if worst case scenario they lose to the Ravens, they could start 2-1 going to Dallas for that following week.
Well, I mean, which would be a huge lift for the organization.
Yes.
Yeah, because looking at week 4 at Dallas, I am not afraid of the Dallas Cowboys. All right. not like I would be afraid of other teams that we would be playing that, I have
The
nightmares.
Ravens will be one hell of a warm up for that team.
Yeah, but I'm nervous about whenever we play the Steelers, just because Roethlisberger doesn't lose to us. And I'm worried about the Texans, just because if you can't put pressure on the quarterback, you're going to get beat up that way. The Titans, it's a physical game, and we saw what happened last year when you try to play a high school trick play offense. Against a team that's really going to take it to you. And by December the 6th, when we play the Titans in Tennessee, you're going to see how tough you are. I don't have any fear of the Giants or the Jets. I mean, and honestly, there's no reason why we shouldn't win 2 against the Bengals. The problem is do we give those 2 back against the Ravens? You've got to split with teams where you can split, and you got to beat up the Bengals.
What about with Pittsburgh? Do you see yourself splitting with them, or do you think they'll most likely take both?
They're the greatest reason, week 17 could be a huge week, because playing the Steelers in Cleveland, it is conceivable that those 2 teams will be fighting for a playoff spot, wild card spot. And so it means nothing if both teams are either, if the Steelers are in and are going to rest Bradshaw, listen to me.
Whoa!
What's the difference?
Are you thinking of that 78 steel curtain?
Yeah, they're bringing him out on a gurney, folks, and Terry's back.
The
God
78
damn.
steel
I
curtain.
think I'm going to call 911. What's your address, Mark?
Yeah, my goodness. I hate them all.
Rox, you better run out there with the thermometer and stick it in his ear.
Wait a minute. The Browns are countering.
rear?
They're
What?
bringing back
What the
Turkey Jones.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Throw that motherfucker on his head.
The Browns are bringing back Jim Brown in their arsenal.
Yeah, they'll put the fear back in old Terry.
But, the problem is with Chuck Noll coming to Cleveland.
Good times. Good times.
He was a guard for the Browns, by the way.
Yeah.
Otto Graham ain't going to know what hit him.
I just hope Benny Cunningham doesn't hurt us at the tight end position.
Well,
That's
Mr.
what I hope.
Witt, I'm going to like that matchup after the Cowboys. You guys host the Colts and Phillip Rivers in the Colts. I'm going to like that matchup personally.
Well, Phillip Rivers will get rid of the ball quickly. This you can count on. Very hard to sack that guy. He's a ball control kind of guy. And, you want Phillip Rivers to be playing from behind. And you got to eat up the clock, get ahead of them, and then force him to drop back and throw more frequently. And he's no spring chicken either.
And if he's throwing the ball to T.Y. Hilton, that should be pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I would say that he's not the best long ball thrower I've ever seen in my life, but he is a game manager at this point in his career, and he's accurate. And,
I think if you put the pressure on Phillip Rivers, like if you try to blitz him, I feel like he gets the ball off quicker and better versus if you allow him to sit in the pocket.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were some cracks shown where he was throwing the ball late on out patterns and getting picked more than he had in the past. Whether that's an arm strength issue or that was just a burnout factor playing there, hard to say. But the week 17, if we do beat the Steelers, because the Steelers are already in the playoffs, it doesn't mean a goddamn thing, right? I mean, do I think we can split with the Steelers? Yes. I think we can split against all of these teams, but it's going to be hardest against the Ravens. That's, and I think we can beat the Bengals outright. So, again, the Eagles, I don't know what to think about Carson Wentz and that whole situation there. I don't know.
Will he be injured by that time, or was he, never seems to make it to the end of the season?
Now, who is it they brought in? Jalen Hurts? Is that who they brought in?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Jalen Hurts the team.
Yeah. I thought love hurts. That's what Nazareth said, but no, Jalen Hurts. Yeah.
I like him personally.
Yeah, and Jay Giles, love stings.
And who's quarterbacking the Jaguars now?
Gardner
Minshew.
Still Minshew.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. And who is that? They just announced.
They signed Mike Glennon.
Yeah, Glennon.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God. What was he related to the guy who went up into outer space, the senator from Ohio?
Only thing
No.
John
Oh,
Glennon.
draft was that
John Glennon.
Glenn.
I thought he got shot at the hotel.
No, I know what it
John
was.
Lennon.
That's right, right. That was his son, Julian Glennon. That's right. Yeah, I
You're
remember
thinking of that
now.
leader from Russia, Lenin. That's a whole nother Lenin. there.
Vladimir
No.
Glennon.
The Lord, yeah, the Lawrence Welk show, the Glennon sisters. Remember,
Yeah.
remember
Thanks,
them
girls. That was a real bitch in a tune.
Fuck
too?
Yoko.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Jeez.
God, all 40 years, we still hold a grudge.
Yeah, Rox and I have been watching the Beatles anthology. Remember that, the one that ran in the early 2000s on network television? Did you guys get to see that? Oh, it was great. It was an 8-part series. They ran it over the course of a week on national television. It was never seen since, but I had found the DVD on it really cheap.
What was the name of it, Mr. Mued?
It was called Anthology, Beatles Anthology. And there are 8 DVDs in this thing.
When did they
And-
release that Lost John Lennon track that the other 3 ended up playing on?
That's where it was debuted.
Mid-90s, I think.
Free as a
Freeze a
Bird.
Bird and Real Love.
The whole DVD from Apple is
Like that was
Amazing.
that was every 6th song on the alternative stations here.
right. Free as a Bird, and the other one
Real
was
Love.
Real Love, right? And yeah, those were in the last 2 days. They put those videos on as the more recent work, and that was the odd case of, for some reason, George Martin not getting to produce those tracks. Jeff Lynne did.
Jeff Lynne from ELO.
Yeah, and which was an odd choice to begin with. And I felt really bad for George Martin, who's just a fucking genius. And they let him remaster the old songs. And I thought, boy, that's kind of cold, Boy, he's the 5th Beatle, man. You can't treat him that way.
Yeah, but Jeff Lynne idolized the Beatles.
Yeah, he did.
ELO was supposed to be like the second coming of the Beatles,
Yeah.
as opposed to the Cars that were supposed to be the American version of the Beatles.
Plus he was a Wilbury.
Yep.
I mean,
Traveling.
he got, yes. And so he got in with George Harrison big time.
Right.
And that became a political struggle there. Who was going to be used for what? And and I guess George Martin, who's in the documentary quite a bit, I felt badly for him. I would have loved to have heard what he would have done with some of those songs, because I really thought that the demos on Real Love, the vocal was really hard to salvage on that, and tough. It was a tough job all the way around. Free as a Bird had a good video. It had that going for it. But yeah, so we're watching, and we're finally at part 8, the final one, where they're all going to end up doing a dance around a big pot and cannibalize one another. So that'll be really fun watching. Watch them
Spoilers.
beat each other to death.
Yeah, see who walks away from that one.
It's like, God, Paul, your wife's ugly. When
It's going to be like Futurama. They're all just heads in a jar.
Yeah, did you ever see Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story?
I saw a little bit
Parts
of
of
it.
it.
Oh, it's when Dewey goes off to India with the Beatles, and they're doing mantras. And the guy who does Lennon is really ridiculous. He over exaggerates the accent, and his mantra is, Paul's a big fat cunt. And it was just ugly, because it was like, Dewey Cox like, wow, these guys don't get along at all. But it got to that point in the end. Brian Epstein has just died where we are, and they have opened up Apple. and things are going to go, Let It Be is going to come and then Let It Go.
Go south.
Yeah. So those are fun things to watch, is you can dredge up all kinds of old shit during the pandemic.
Hey, does Sony still own the catalog?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Because they ended up with it from the Michael Jackson estate. He finally had to sell it all the way off.
I remember hearing Revolution being used for tennis shoes commercials.
That was Michael Jackson when he originally bought the catalog.
Well, he was bad, really bad.
You know it.
Yeah, and McCartney's like,
jam on.
Stay.
Yeah, as of 2016, Sony owns the Lennon-McCartney catalog.
God, that's just, boy, and they borrowed against, poor Michael borrowed against, and that's all really Sony was after with Michael. I mean, you provide him with a few little boys and, a nice array of chimpanzees and a big
but
house.
he had to borrow against it to pay for his legal fees.
Yeah, I mean, it was
and
the
his
whole
taxes
thing.
on Neverland Ranch. They kept
Neverland Ranch.
Apparently,
We all
Annie
knew.
wasn't okay.
When I was in the business, we all knew what was going on with that. I mean, Sony wanted the catalog, and it was it was difficult getting outbid when you're Paul McCartney. Getting outbid for your own catalog has got to be one of the most painful things you could imagine. And then hearing it on Nike commercials, I mean, just
after doing a song with Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
Paul McCartney actually gave Michael Jackson the advice that he needs to own his own songs. And then Michael went out and bought the Beatles stuff. So yeah, Paul was salty. Paul was salty over that for a long time, and he was pissed over the Nike commercial.
Turned out Michael did have a nose for business.
I'm not sure where that nose was at all times, but
not necessarily on his face at all times. No.
Yeah, well, when you look in the mirror and you see your dad's face, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah. Suppose when
and your dad is abusing you in pretty much every way possible.
Oh, before we get out of here, the predictions on the panel, and what do you think the Browns' final record is going to be? Rox, we'll start with you.
I don't know.
Okay, it has to equal 16 games, okay?
16 games. How many do you think they'll win?
Between 0 and 16, we're looking for a number. Any number.
Go with 8.
There you go.
Rox, how about a better question? What's Steven been eating the whole show?
What is
nuggets.
it? Was that what it is? Boy, it takes one to know one, huh, Rox? Boy, you honed right in on them nuggets. All right, Rick, what do you think?
I look at the schedule. It just seems like it's going to go up, down, up, down, up, down. I think they're going to wind up 9 and 7. I think maybe they'll be able to sneak in and get that last playoff spot.
All right, Amsterdam.
Yeah, I think probably 9 and 7. I mean, 10 and 6 would be wonderful, but a winning season is better than we've seen in a long time.
All right, Steven.
I got the Texans going 5 and 11. I got the Browns going 10 and 6.
All right, and Tony the Calf. Wake up, little Susie. Wake up.
Roxanne stumbled across my prediction. I'm gonna go with 8 and 8.
All right, and Brian.
I'm going to go with the majority here. I'm going to say 9 and 7.
Yeah, I think that it's a nice, hopeful thing to be above 500. I think it will give us at least a foundation with a new coach and a new staff, a new concept. I always say this: you're gonna know after the first 4 weeks, and the first 4 weeks did not lie last year. We started out horrible. We leveled ourselves at 2-2, but we knew things weren't right. You get a real feeling after the first 4 games how a team is implementing a new system and whether it's really working or not for them and whether the players are all on the same page. Cleveland never got on the same page. We have an opportunity clearly here to win 2 games out of the first 4. We really do. And we have maybe an outside chance of winning a 3rd game and being 3-1. There is an outside chance of that, although I wouldn't necessarily say that that's an odds-on favorite. But so much at that turn, because it's so hard in that second 4 games, because we're just getting into divisional rivals. You're going to be on the road. You're going to be, there's a bunch of things that are going to make it harder to win. And then by the time you get to the halfway mark, you really want to be 5-3, knowing that you got those 2 New York games that should be in your hip pocket. You got Cincinnati again, and
Jags.
You got the Jags. And so, if you're 5-3 at the halfway point, then you can say, well, gosh, I could see us, in the last 8 games, conceivably going another 5-3 and being 10-6. I'm going to say 9-7. So that's what my belief is. For now, it can always change. All right, guys and ladies, thank you so much for being a part of this Moohead Radio. Stay safe out there. Be smart about what you do. Enjoy yourself, but not at the expense of your health or others. Do the best you can with what we've got. And do me a favor, and if you see people arguing and really, getting tempestuous, be good. Be good, because I'm going to do my best to be good. And Brian, fuck you.
And we have back to green flag racing.
Monetization in 3, 2, 1, go.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again, as we always are, on Monday. Until next time, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.